In September of 1941, in the broad light of day, a creature visited the Chapman family in Ruby Creek, British Columbia. Jeannie Chapman, along with her children, encountered what they initially thought was a bear, only to realize it was a towering, hairy man-like figure. This startling event, filled with physical evidence and terrifying moments, transformed local legends into a chilling reality. Join us as we explore the details of this extraordinary encounter that has left an indelible mark on Bigfoot lore and discover why this story continues to captivate and intrigue to this day. It was around 3 in the afternoon on a sunny, cloudless day when Jeannie Chapman's eldest son, then just 9 years old, came running to the house with an urgent message. He claimed there was a cow coming down out of the woods at the foot of the nearby mountain. Meanwhile, his younger siblings, a 7-year-old boy and a 5-year-old girl, were playing in a field behind the house near the railway tracks. Mrs. Chapman, sensing her son's unusual distress, went out to investigate. What she initially thought was a very large bear moving among the bushes near the railway tracks turned out to be something far more alarming. As the creature emerged onto the tracks, Mrs. Chapman's initial assumption was shattered. To her horror, she realized it was not a bear, but a gigantic man covered with hair. The hair was about 4 inches long and of a pale yellow-brown color. The Chapman family's ordinary day had taken a terrifying turn, and they were face to face with what would become one of the most infamous encounters in Bigfoot history. The creature advanced directly toward the house, giving Mrs. Chapman, as she put it, too much time to look at it. She stood her ground outside, directing her eldest son to fetch a blanket from the house and gather his siblings. During this time, the creature had reached the near corner of the field, only about 100 feet away from her. With the blanket in hand, Mrs. Chapman spread it and held it aloft so that the children could not see the creature or be seen by it. She then backed off quickly to the old field and down to the river beach, out of sight. From there, she ran with the children downstream to the village. Mrs. Chapman provided a detailed description of the creature. She estimated its height to be about 7.5 feet tall, judging by the various fence and line posts standing around the field. It had a rather small head and a very short, thick neck, or really no neck at all. This feature had been emphasized by others who claimed to have seen such creatures, including William Rowe. The body was entirely human in shape, but was immensely thick through the chest, and its arms were exceptionally long. The creature's shoulders were very wide and it had no breasts, leading Mrs. Chapman to assume it was a male. One point she was most definite about was that the naked parts of its face and hands were much darker than its hair, appearing almost black like a gorilla. George Chapman returned home from his railroad work that day shortly before 6 in the evening. He took a route that bypassed the village, so he was unaware of the day's earlier events. As he approached his house, he immediately noticed the battered woodshed door and enormous humanoid footprints scattered around the property. Greatly alarmed, for he had grown up hearing about the big wild men of the mountains, he called for his family and dashed through the house. He then spotted the tracks of his wife and children heading towards the river. Following these tracks, he found them on the sand beside the river, leading downstream without any giant footprints following. Somewhat relieved, he retraced his steps and stumbled upon the giant's foot tracks farther upstream.
These tracks had come from the potato patch between the house and the river and then returned through the old field toward the mountain's foot, where they disappeared into the heavy growth. Returning to the house, reassured that his family's tracks led to the village, George Chapman went to examine the woodshed. There he was astonished to find that even a 7'6" man with a barrel chest could lift a 55-gallon tub of fish and break it open without using a tool. He confirmed the creature's height by finding long brown hairs stuck in the slabwood lintel of the doorway, above the level of his head. After examining the woodshed, George Chapman hurried to the village to find his family. He discovered them in a state of calm collapse, clearly shaken by their experience. Concerned for their safety, he gathered them up and invited his father-in-law and 2 others to return with him for protection, especially when he was away at work. For the next week, the giant footprints returned every night. On 2 occasions, the dogs the Chapmans had taken with them set up an awful racket at exactly 2 o'clock in the morning, alerting them to the presence of the creature. However, the Sasquatch did not molest them or disturb the house or woodshed. Despite the lack of direct confrontation, the constant presence of the Sasquatch and the eerie nightly disturbances proved too unnerving for the family. Unable to find peace, they finally made the difficult decision to move out of their home at Ruby Creek and never went back.
The Ruby Creek incident remains one of the most compelling and detailed encounters in the history of Sasquatch sightings. The Chapman family's experience, marked by vivid details and physical evidence, challenges the boundaries between myth and reality. Despite their initial terror, their encounter with the Sasquatch left an indelible mark on their lives, influencing their future actions and decisions. Their story, passed down through generations, continues to intrigue and inspire both believers and skeptics. While the truth behind the Ruby Creek Sasquatch may never be fully known, the Chapman's experience adds a significant chapter to the ongoing mystery of Bigfoot. As we continue to explore and investigate such stories, we remain ever curious and open to the possibilities that lie beyond the realm of our understanding.
Thanks for watching the Cryptid Files, where mysteries come alive and legends are explored. Check out some of our other videos and venture into the heart of the unknown as we unravel the enigma of Bigfoot and other elusive creatures that have captivated the world's imagination. From ancient myths to modern-day encounters, our channel is your gateway to the uncharted territories of cryptozoology. Join our community of explorers, believers, and skeptics alike. Subscribe now and become part of the journey. The Cryptid Files, where every mystery has a story and every story takes us deeper into the wild. Don't miss out. Hit that subscribe button and let the adventure begin.